Magoli Swagwake, Jody Niyungets. Today we are going to show you how to do cornbread at home. I know that we sell it, the cannery sells it through retail, but we want to encourage you to be able to do it at home, feel comfortable. A lot of people get intimidated thinking that it's too hard to do, but it actually is very easy to do at home. You will probably see these at our retail spots where you can buy the flour yourself. And so we encourage you to buy the flour yourself and try to do it at home. You can do it as a family. It could be something you can do with your kids and teach them. So we will get started on how to do it. So I already have measured out. I have 3 cups of the cornbread flour, gonna stohale flour here, measured out. And on the recipe here, there is a recipe that you can follow in the back here of the label. So here, this recipe calls for 1.5 cups of stohale flour, which equals out to be about 1 cornbread. So I measured out 3 cups here, so this will make like 2 cornbread, depending on the size, or how you can make smaller ones, you can make bigger ones. It all depends. And then it calls for 1/2 cup of, you can use, these are small red beans, but you can use kidney beans, you can use, there's actually a cornbread bean that you can use. You can literally put anything, whatever you want, into your cornbread. You can use berries, different types of beans, but right here we use the red chili bean, or the red small beans. So I have out measured 1 cup here to my 3 cups of flour, because it calls for 1/2 cup of beans to 1.5 cups of flour. So what we do is we'll just pour this in here, and then we'll mix it up nice and good. Make sure that your beans get nice and spread in there evenly. And then on the recipe here for the 1.5 cups that's on here, it calls for 1.5 cups of boiling water. So we will measure out 3 cups, because this is twice of what it says on there. So we have 3 cups of boiling water. We'll add about half of it and mix it quickly. And you always want to use boiling water, because that's what really binds the cornbread flour. And you'll notice too that if you do not use boiling water, because you want the dough to be kind of like a clay-like consistency, and then you'll notice that if you don't use boiling water, it'll be kind of more like gritty still. So you really have to use boiling water. So then you just kind of get in there with your hands, mix it around. And then I have a cup of ice water here, because this can be really hot when you're using your hands. And so I will kind of dip my hands in here, kind of cool them down, and then we'll go back in and mix it around. So this is what it will look like. And it's kind of, you know, like a clay-like consistency. And so you'll kind of do about half, your best judgment on doing half. And we'll set this to the side here. And then I like to put water down, because it's easier to form when it's like a slippery surface. So as you're going, you're going to smooth out the edges. You'll take it and you'll flip it over. You'll smooth the top as you're turning it, just smoothing the edges. like so. And then you'll come out with your bread looking like that. And take the other one here. So if you're at home, you probably want to do this like maybe on your countertop next to your stove. You can probably do it at the table, but you just have to make sure that the water that you're getting, you know, stays pretty hot if you're going to be doing it at the table. So now that we're done forming our cornbread, I'll put this away here. Then we'll take the cornbread and we'll gently drop it in. And then it will boil for about 30 minutes. I know on the recipe it does say 30 to 35 minutes, but usually around the 30 mark is when it'll be done. And then when it's done, it'll rise to the top. So that's how you can always tell that the cornbread is done cooking. It'll float to the top. So it's been about 8 to 10 minutes since we put the cornbread in. At that point, when you're making cornbread, you want to take your cornbread paddle. If you don't have a cornbread paddle, you can use a spatula, you can use a wooden spoon, or anything of that manner. So then you're going to take your cornbread paddle and you're going to kind of go around and make sure that your cornbread is not sticking to the side of the kettle or sticking to the bottom. And you're just going to kind of move and make sure that that it's not sticking or sticking together. And I also forgot to mention earlier in the video that when you use beans, you have to make sure that they are cooked, or you can use canned beans, anything of that manner, but they do have to be cooked. So you don't want to use like raw beans and then wondering why, you know, your beans ain't getting soft. So they do have to be cooked or using canned beans if you use beans. So now we just wait for it to start rising. So now the cornbread has floated to the top, and it's been about 30 minutes. You kind of want to check on it though throughout. You don't ever want to leave it sit or let it boil without you know, constantly checking on it or being there the whole time, because the boil can get extreme, and it can boil away the cornbread if the boil is too extreme. So you can kind of see that it's like a light boil, and you do kind of want bubbles just so that it ensures that it's not getting stuck on, you know, around the kettle or anything, and it kind of moves the cornbread around. And so it's about time to take it out now. You will see too, kind of like some of the beans have boiled out, and that just happens. But if you do leave the boil on too long or too high, the beans will eventually boil themselves out. So you also, that's why you always want to kind of check on it or be there consistently watching it, and not really let it boil by itself. So once it's done and it's ready to eat. Then you can serve it dinner time, breakfast, however you're gonna eat it. Some people will slap butter on it. Some people will dip it in maple syrup. Some people will fry it. There's all kinds of different ways that you can eat it when it's done. But yeah, and then if you are choosing to store it after you're done cooking it, we will show you how to cool it down. And I believe the shelf life is, if it's vacuum sealed, it's about 3 weeks. That's what our shelf life is, with it being vacuum sealed. If you are choosing to use maybe like a Ziploc bag or something like that, I believe that you can freeze it. And I'm pretty sure that it is up to a year that you can keep it frozen. And then I believe if you're just going to store it in your refrigerator, that it is a 7-day shelf life in your refrigerator. And so I'm going to take this cornbread out. Water on there. And then we're putting it in what we call an ice bath. And this is what will cool it down. So it's just water and ice. And then you put your cornbread in there after it's done cooking, and then you leave it in there for about 30 minutes ish, depending, you know, how much ice you have in there, how cold the water is, all that type of stuff. And you'll leave it in there for it to fully cool down before you package it or put it in a Ziploc bag or however it is that you want to store it if you're going to save it. And so that's how we cool it down. But yeah. So I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in on the video, checking it out. Hopefully this video will encourage you guys to want to do it or try it at least at home. It is very easy. It's not as hard as a lot of people think it is. And yeah, thanks for watching.